Now, would you like to buy a bucket hat?
No.
Yours.
I feel a fool.
Yours.
You said it would rain, didn't you?
For just £10.
No, I'll just get wet and look like a drowned rat by the end of the show. Why not? It's live telly. Let's catch up with the comings and goings of all our live cameras. Let's have a look. Here we go. Anything moving around? Do you know, everything's a little bit still, but that's exactly what you'd expect, isn't it? When the rain starts, they're all beginning to hunker down. But let's have a look at our long-eared owl nest. Now, you can see the adult's doing exactly that, beginning to hunker. There are only 2 chicks left, because you may remember it all got a bit grisly yesterday. How could you possibly forget? Because one of the chicks died, and then the adult pecked at it, swallowed the head whole, and then gave the rest of that dead chick to the 2 siblings. As I say, there's no Disneyfying of nature, is there? But there's 2 chicks that are underneath her in that nest, keeping warm, keeping sheltered, and so far doing very well. Hopefully there'll be no more drama in that nest.
A bit more rain now, but there was a storm this morning that had an impact on our song thrushes. But the female, who was brooding the yarn, did a brilliant job of turning herself into an avian umbrella and keeping the rain off. Just look at all of those droplets resting on her feathers there. Now, there's a misconception that it's the waxes, fatty acids and europidial oils that come from the preen gland that keep the feathers waterproof. But actually, that's not true. What they do is they keep the feathers in tip-top condition, flexible and structurally sound, and it's that makes them waterproof. Clearly did the job. Look at those chicks, they're all nice and dry, unlike the male bird that's bringing in some food for them there, who's got a right drenching. Look at that, and then she settles back down, having done a great job, as I say, of keeping them not just dry, but of course warm as well. We can go to them live now, and in the rain, maybe she's doing the same thing. No, not quite heavy enough. And there, look at those 3 heads pointing out.
Oh, that is cute. That is very sweet. 4
Another
little
head,
beaks.
yeah, just
4 little
there.
beaks.
Look at that. Now, she will return pretty soon, I imagine, because the temperature is dropping, and these chicks are still big enough to be brooded. Oh, hold on, that's why she's dropped off. Look at that. There's a slightly soggy male bird that's come in and provided some food and taken away. Oh, no, he didn't take it away. He ate the fecal sac. Perfect. But I'm sure she'll be back on them soon. As I say, temperature's dropping. They're still big enough to be brooded. She'll settle down for the night.
Well, the weather's been coming and going. I don't know if you remember yesterday. It was glorious, wasn't it? We had that gorgeous sunset. Now look at it. But so have the birds. I mean, it's week 2 and we've already said goodbye to some of our stars. Redstarts, they've gone, haven't they? Let's take a look at what happened over the weekend. Just a quick update, because we had all those chicks crammed into that cavity in that tree. And then over the weekend, one by one, they poked their heads out, desperate to get out of that nest. The adult came once they'd all gone, had a check, and then something else came. Something rather odd looking.
Right.
Rather odd generally, really. Mr. Chris Packham, what's he doing?
In diameter that way, and 5 centimetres there. Just see how deep the nest cut was. 11 centimetres. Tiny little space they were in.
The tenants on the Longshaw estate, in the form of birds, were complaining about the housing here.
I don't blame them.
Saying it was a bit cramped.
Yep.
So I just went out to measure that. So it's 5 centimetres diameter for the entrance hole. That's not bad for a red shank. For a redstart. It would be tricky for a red shank, I've got to tell you. But for a redstart, that's not too bad. What was interesting, it was only 11 centimetres deep and about 7 centimetres wide. So I've got a facsimile of the nest here, Mick.
Yep.
And here are some beautifully crafted, young and lovely
I mean, it would have kind of been like that, wouldn't it, in the tree? But for this purpose, we'll do it like that.
I think like that.
Okay, like that.
And what I'm going to demonstrate, we've got 6 of these. There were 6 of those fledglings in the nest. So I'm going to put them in here. I'll put them in the right way round. There'll be some sort of decency there. And this is just to show you how cramped that nest hole must have been. Now, there would have been advantages to that, of course, because they would have been kept warm, but it would have been disadvantages. If you're the one at the bottom trying to get... Look, there's no room for that. There's no room for that last one.
That's utterly ridiculous, isn't it?
Trying to get to the food, it would have been very difficult. And perhaps that's what prompted that early fledging, because they did pop out pretty quickly before their wings were fully developed, and we saw them down on the ground hopping around. Thankfully, the adult redstarts were still tending them, of course.
If I was a redstart, I'd complain to the Housing Association about that.
I'll get straight on to the managers here at Longshaw and have those trees, enlarged.
What about the pied flycatchers? Can I just say, we've got a little nest box behind us. One's been darting in and out. It's been lovely, hasn't it? But We saw them yesterday, and during the show, some of them fledged. So let's have a look at that nest box live. And look, it is empty. Quite pleased to say that I did say they'd all be gone. I at least got that right, but I tell you, we didn't get one thing right. They were fledging during the show, and we thought there was just one left, but in fact, there were two left. So what happened today? Well, early this morning at 6:46, we saw one of them go up to the hole in the nest box, peek out. That's what all its siblings did. Looked out onto the world. The adult came in, fed it something to tantalise it out of the nest box, and eventually it decided to go. What about the one that was left? It's been flapping. It's been thinking about it. Then at 7:06, it sticks its head out of one side, it sticks something out the other end, out it comes, it lightens its load, and finally off it goes. So that's another nest, all of them successfully fledged. I love it when we have a nice, happy, successful fledging.
Successful fledging there, but we're very keen on the pied flies because they have some interesting mating strategies. So we put a camera on another nest to see if we can find out what's going on there. This is it live. We can cut inside. You can see it's got 6 youngsters, just like the previous one. 1 unhatched egg in the foreground. That's not going to hatch now. And they're all looking healthy, I've got to say. But there's been plenty of activity that we've been monitoring. So here you can see the nest on the nest box, camera's on the outside, a male comes in. That male doesn't have as much brown on as the one we watched previously. It might be slightly older, perhaps a year older. Female comes in too, feeding the chicks. But then look at this, male comes back, lands on the tree, but look, this male has a ring on its leg. If you were looking carefully, you might have noticed that the previous one that entered the box wasn't wearing that ring. In goes the female, feeds the chicks. The other male has a quick look, he's thinking about it, but then disappears. And just to prove a point, here's the male that we're watching. Look, no ring on the legs. Definitely 2 males in attendance at this nest. Now, this one brings in a buff-tip moth, famed for their remarkable camouflage, looking like birch twigs. Didn't work for this moth, though, did it? Bird found it. Tries to put it into the mouths of the chicks, simply too big. All of its dust comes off of its wings, makes a terrible mess, eats it himself, and then disappears. But we will be keeping a close eye on this nest. Look, there's one with the wing. It's come up to the hole, thinking about going in. We know that they have extra pair matings and they're polygynous, so sometimes males service more than one female.
We'll keep our eye on that, but not just because there are 2 males. There's also a bit of jeopardy, because that nest box and the noise inside didn't just attract 2 males, it attracted a predator. Let's take another look, because the predator is a stoat. And you can see, look at it, it's looking. It can hear what's going on in there, and it's looking right at the entrance to the nest. But look what else turns up. A male sparrowhawk, one of your favourite birds.
Best bird in the world. Best bird in the world.
That is right outside the nest box. Now, this is obviously an extremely dangerous predator for those little chicks.
And the adults.
Is it going to just sit there and wait for the adults to return, wait for the chicks to come out? Or is it just going to fly past? Well, as I say, we'll keep our eye on that nest, and you can do the same from 10 o'clock in the morning. So make sure you keep watching those nests, because the drama just keeps continuing.
That sparrowhawk's got one thing on its mind. Murder. It's like a pocket Terminator, the sparrowhawk. Absolutely remarkable little bird. And that stoat as well. Frequently, weasels will go up and get into nest boxes because they can squeeze through the hole. Could the stoat squeeze through the hole?
I reckon it could. I mean, from that picture, I reckon that stoat could get... Oh, that's going to be awful, isn't it?